Greetings, folks. It is time for our next Kickin 5.56 bullet video. The votes are in. We've had polls up on the previous videos. And the next one you want to see is the 65 grain Sierra Game King. The 1395s. I'm looking forward to this one. And I've bought a bunch of them. I've got 600. So we have got no shortage of bullets. Let's have a quick up close look at this guy. Yep, it is a soft point boat tail. You know, Spitzer point, soft point. So looking around, a lot of people seem to shoot really excellent groups with this bullet. So I am looking forward to hopefully doing the same. I think it might just be an accurate one. Definitely a butt kicker, right? People are out there killing deer with this. So I think it's a good small to medium game. Possible certain self-defense scenarios might be a good candidate. And the best thing of all is the price. They're about 20 cents a piece. 21 cents a piece, I think, was the last time I looked on Midway what they were going for. So you could probably get them a little bit cheaper, maybe 19-20 cents a piece. That is a whole lot cheaper than the 70 grain Maker Rex, you know, the last bullet we tested. So, yep, this is going to be a pretty good bargain. Also in the polls, we've asked what powder we want to see next, and overwhelmingly everybody wants to see some CFE 223. Almost twice as many votes as anything else. So that's what we're going to shoot today, is CFE 223. We've got so many of these bullets that I'm actually going to shoot a couple powders with this bullet, but I'm just going to split it into separate videos. So this video is going to be focused just on CFE 223 and our 65 grain Game Kings. We want to stick with the same primer we used in the last video, the Federal AR small rifle match primers. We'll probably switch it up in the next video. Maybe we'll shoot some CCIs in the next video, but for this one, let's stick with the same. I've got some brass pretty much prepped. I didn't want to bog down this video with brass prep, so this stuff is resized and cleaned up and ready to go. It's ready for primers and then powder and bullets, and we'll be shooting. Unfortunately, this bullet, it's been around a while, but it hasn't been around long enough to where it's made itself into a lot of the manuals. So Sierra doesn't have load data for it, and looking through my other manuals, I didn't see any for it as well. But we've got some good sources of data that we can take into account to pick out load data. The main one is the Hodgdon website, right? And that's the other problem. CFE 223 is a very new powder still. I mean, it's, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old or something, but it's not in a lot of the manuals. So Hodgdon is always the first place to look for a powder that's kind of new, or one of their powders. So it is, they've got the 63 grain Sierra, it's like I think it's SP, it's like a semi-pointed or something they call it. It's a lot like this bullet, but it's got a more rounded point rather than the Spitzer style, and I think it's a flat base. But I've read at several places that they have a very similar bearing surface, and the load data is usually pretty close. So the Hodgdon website, they show a starting charge of 25 and a max charge of 26.4. So that's kind of data point number one, 26.4 max on Hodgdon. The Nosler manual, they've got some CFE 223 data here, and I was looking, their 64 grain bullet, they shoot CFE 223 from 24 up to 26. So that says max 26. Hodgdon said 26.4. That's pretty darn close to one another. And they actually, yeah, Nosler marks which powder was the most accurate that they tested, and CFE 223 was their most accurate powder tested with their 64 grainer. So hoping for some good accuracy today. So that's another vote for kind of 26 to 24. If we go to the, if I knock over the camera and then go to the Hornady manual, they shoot CFE 223 quite a bit. So with their 60 grain bullet, a little bit lighter, they go up to 27.4. Good bit higher than the 26 and 26.4 we've seen, but that's a lighter bullet. Their 68 grain in their service rifle section, they go up to 26.3. That's really close to the 26.4. And let's see, I don't know if there was anything in the 5.56. Yep, in their 5.56 section and their 60 grain VMAX, they take it up to 27.7. And with their 68 grain, they go up to 26.9. So a whole lot of votes for that 26 to 27 grain max. And so I'm feeling pretty good about 26 grains, calling that a maximum. So let's do that. Let's load up to 26 grains and see if that blows our head off. We're going to watch brass pressure signs all the way up, you know, not like we did last time when I got myself in trouble with the Maker Rex bullet. So that's what I want to do. Let's start at 24 and go up to 26 and just see what happens. And I tell you what, since we've got so many bullets, let's just go ahead and load up 5-shot groups all the way from 24 to 26, and let's go in 4/10 of a grain increments. So 24, 24.4, and so on up to 26.0. That'll give us 6 groups to shoot first. 6 5-shot groups. That ought to give us a good idea of what's going on, what's grouping well, where our point of impact shifts are happening, and that sort of stuff. And give us a good chance to gather velocity data and all of that sort of stuff. Then we'll probably come back, look at the groups, try and hone in on you know, what we like, and then we'll probably load up some more, and then go back out for to kind of verify things. So, all right, I need to get situated and start priming some brass. I need to prime this brass up. I forgot to do that. Alright, so I got those guys primed, but I did have one that it started in just a little bit crooked. Just a touch. Actually, I might just be able to... Let's try a decapping pin. Slightly. Come on. See if I can set this guy off. Alright, I'm getting away from it. I'm looking away. Nope, it's not going to come out. Ah, screw it. We'll just put this guy in the pile of shame. And I'll deal with it later. We got plenty of brass to work with. Okay, so these go over here as our spares. Here's our initial 30. Ready to rock. So, in case you missed the last video, I'm using the same brass, or the same, you know, type of brass. This is Lake City 5.56 brass. Range pickups and just, I don't know, wherever they came from sort of stuff. They are, okay, CFE 223. If you're not familiar with the powder, let me give you a quick look at it. It is a small little flake type powder. At least I think. I don't think it's spherical. Where's my bowl? Let me wipe out the bowl. Don't want to contaminate your powder, man. That's bad. That is bad. Alright, let's see. There we go. Yep, tiny little flakes. So it's so fine that it runs very well through a powder measure. We are going to be weighing every charge, but to speed things up a little bit, I am going to go ahead and just put this powder, see if I can pour it out of the bowl straight into my powder measure. You guys can't even see my powder measure. There you go, now you can kind of see it. So there's the powder out of the bowl. Now this is the problem with these sorts of powders. See how that crap clings to everything? It's very static sensitive. And that's why, to be honest, I prefer extruded powders, and it's mainly for that reason. Well, am I using a funnel? There we go. Alright, so we've got a powder measure full of powder. Our first charge, as I mentioned, is going to be 24 grains. So what I want to do is set up my powder measure to throw like 23.5 or you know, something like that. Let's grab my digital scale. Alright, let's see how much we're getting. $24.4. Pretty close. And actually, as I'm grabbing this powder, start filling up my trickler with these charges. $23.02. See if we can hone in on it a little bit better. $23.2. I bet we can get up to like 23.8 or something like that, to where we're just trickling a little bit as we go. 23.7. That's actually exactly 24. 24.02, which is perfect. So I need a funnel. And we'll just go ahead and put that guy in there. See if we can get lucky second time. 23.96. Pretty close. I was going to use my beam scale. Yeah, let's do that. I want to switch over to my beam scale. It's a little easier to trickle with. Alright, so I've set my beam scale on 24, and what I want to do is grab some check weights and use that to actually zero it. So there's 22 and 24. Alright, and it's reading just a little bit high. So this little RCBS 502 beam scale, you just, you can't even see it. There you go. It's got this little foot on it that you just rotate, and it just screws it up and down. So I'm going to screw that guy up until it reads exactly 0. There we are. The scale is ready to rock. I need to adjust the pan position here. I was screwing with that earlier and got it a little bit out of whack. There we go. That's perfect. So let's start trickling. Alright, so we got our first 5 charges thrown. They all look good. The case fill, I wouldn't be able to show it to you, but it's a little bit below the shoulder. Once we get up to 26, we're probably going to be getting a little bit closer to a full case, but there's plenty of room now here with this 24 grain load. One thing we didn't talk about was overall length, and found a lot of different information out there. What I'm going to go with is 2.250. So that's 10 thousandths short of magazine length. Tell you what, I'll show you a little picture here about what the seating depth looks like at 2.250. That's just about perfect. As you can see, the boat tail starts right about the bottom of the case neck. So that means basically the entire neck of the case is in contact with bearing surface of the bullet. So that should make for a really nice neck tension, and it should be a good seating depth, I think. So that's what we're going to go with, 2.250, or as close as we can get here with this crazy seating die. So let's run the first guy up in here. I am using Remington dies, if you didn't watch the previous videos. I go over their setup and stuff in that video, so if you are interested in that, just step back to our Maker Rex video. What I'll probably do here as I test these bullets in 5.56 is every couple videos we'll go through some brass prep and some dies, but I won't necessarily cover everything in every single video. 2.340, 90 thousandths long. Nice big turn there. Oh, did I go too far? Nope, 2.278, still a bit long. .265, about 15 more thousandths. 2.250. See the next guy, let's see if it's the same. Bullets are seating nice, they feel good. 2.251. The other thing, when you're working with a soft tip bullet, the nose on that one looks okay. Kind of the meat plat of the bullet there looks okay. But occasionally you'll get one that's been a little bit smushed or somehow distorted, and that'll cause you some overall length variation. That's another good reason, to shoot rather than 2.260, maybe a little bit shorter. We're going to see a couple thousandths here. 2.248. That's totally okay. .249. So yeah, these are looking good. And I'm going to run these guys through the Lee factory crimp die. We've got it set for a moderate to medium crimp, I think, 2.251. So yeah, we're getting 3 or 4 thousandths of variance here. No big deal. Try the same setting from last time. Not a crazy heavy crimp, but enough to give it a little squeeze. If you look around the bullet, you can see a light mark where the crimp die touched it. But you don't want to crimp it so hard that it distorts the jacket of your bullet. Alright, 25 more times of that, and we'll be ready to go. One thing I wanted to mention, you know, this Hodgdon CFE 223, the CFE stands for Copper Fouling Eraser. And there's also a CFE pistol. You know, it's supposed to help reduce copper fouling in your barrel. We're not going to be shooting enough rounds in this video to cover that, or to test that, or to, you know, find out whether that's effective. I might do another video later on with those guys. This is a good 308 powder as well, and my Tikka 308 is susceptible to some pretty crappy copper fouling sometimes. So that might be a good test bed to try it out in. But we're not going to cover it today. So I kind of just made a little mistake here. If you'll notice on my reloading tray, now I've got freaking powder dumped all over the place. And this leaf funnel I'm using is not quite a perfect fit. And if you don't have it perfectly aligned, you can get a little gap there and dump some powder. But no big deal. I just dump the charge back in the pan. I'll trickle it back up, and we'll be fine. So a little past halfway there. Keep on going. Yeah, so I made another little screw up. Oh, look at the tip of that guy. I smashed it pretty well. I was going from my bullet seating die over to my crimp die and didn't drop the ram quite enough and really boogered up the tip on that guy. I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm not going to worry about it. Should be okay. But we'll mark it. We'll reserve the right to dismiss it if it screws up our groups. It's only fair, right? Okay, last charge. So except for my little powder spilling mishap, still got quite a bit of case capacity. I don't think we're even close to compressing here. So I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see whether we get good accuracy. I think on the velocity side we should hit 2900. I'm pretty sure. Then again, I'm not sure because, you know, most of the load data you find, their test barrels are going to be 20s or 24s, 24-inch barrels. So if you're shooting a 16-inch carbine like I am, you're not going to be able to get that last little bit of velocity, which is not a big deal. But just something to keep in mind. Okay, that's it. There's our first 30 shots. Let's get out there and see how they shoot. Alright, so I think I want to switch things up in a couple ways. For one, I'm going to shoot without the suppressor. I kind of want to work up the load without the suppressor, and then after we're done, put the suppressor on and see whether, you know, what sort of velocity change I get, and you know, whether our accuracy holds, you know, see whether accuracy is the same with and without. The other thing I want to do, I want to shoot these kind of round robin style. So I'm actually going to shoot one shot at each target and then circle back around and do the same. So keeping track of the order I'm putting them in the magazine is going to be critical. So don't let me forget that I'm doing that. I think I'll be okay. Alright, first thing, cycle one of these guys through. See what sort of shape it's in. Nothing weird going on. A couple scratches from the way in and the way out. That's to be expected. So, yep, I think we're in good shape. Let's get started. So we're still sighted in from the 70 grainers in the last video. Hopefully we'll be close enough. If not, I might have to stop and readjust the target camera. Alright, can't forget my ears this time. Okay, velocity 2466 on that guy. First piece of brass looks good. Primer looks fine. Nothing weird going on. Alright, let's keep going. Brass looks good there as well. No problems. Just that's the problem with shooting round robin, is how am I going to deal with the velocity. Hopefully you're seeing something you can make sense of on the screen. That was 25.46, so yeah, that gained 80 feet per second. Just that 4/10. Alright, let's keep going. Okay, up to 2,600 feet per second. Good looking brass. No flattened primer, no extractor mark or ejector mark. Everything looks fine. 26.57. Let's keep on going. All right, that brass looked perfect. All right, about 2,800 feet per second, 2790. No signs of pressure at all. Nice round primer, no ejector hole. Yeah, no problems at all. So we're good to go. All right, to make things more confusing, I want to shoot this one high to low. So we're going to start up at 24. I'm sorry, start up at 26 and work our way down. This does a couple things, right? So for one, if we were going to have pressure issues, we would have found out really quick so that we could abort and, you know, reload if necessary. But it also helps even out, you know, the effects of fouling, the effects of clean shots, the effects of barrel heat or whatever. We just kind of want to even it out across the groups. Sometimes I do it this way, sometimes I don't. It just kind of all depends on what sort of mood I'm in, but it's another way to mix things up at the range, maybe make things more interesting. And it gets pretty exciting there on the last round if you got some good groups and try not to screw them up. So, all right, next 6, starting at the top, or I guess the bottom right. Okay, round 3, normal order. Wow, that last shot was kind of crazy, wasn't it? All right, 4th round, shooting backwards. Yeah, so 2nd, 3rd, and 4th aren't grouping too bad. But man, it's kind of falling apart at the top end, isn't it? You guys are better informed about velocity than I am at this moment. But as far as standard deviations, they don't look bad to me. Especially the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The 5th and 6th are a little bit... well, I guess they're not all that bad either. Okay, last one, normal order. Okay, so none of that's really spectacular. Tell you what I think I want to do. So our decent groups, yeah, like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, that's in the 2550 to 2650 sort of range, it looks like to me. Really like to be hotter, and I'm also curious. You know, we were pretty close to getting to where we were almost to a full case. You know, and a lot of time there's good accuracy to be found there. I want to run inside. I don't think we can go up 8 more tenths. Because I'm looking at this brass, there's zero signs of pressure at all. So I think we can go up some more. But I don't think we could do like 26.4 and 26.8. So let's do 26.3 and 26.6. just to see if we can get into that, you know, upper 2,800, 2,900 feet per second range and see if the groups tighten up. So yeah, let's do that really quick. Let's just run inside, load up 10 rounds, and get right back out here. What I say out there, 26.3 and 26.6. Yep, okay. And 10 more pieces of brass, and we'll be back out there in no time. Alright, so got these last charges done here. So this is 26.6, if you can see any powder down in there. Getting pretty full. I'd say we're probably not quite at 100%, but it's pretty close. Yeah, still feel a little bit of shaky, whatever. Man, my camera angle's horrible, isn't it? Alright, I guess that's a little bit better. Alright, let's go see how they do. Okay, back at it. We're not going to do any alternating crap here. Just going to shoot them straight up. Start with 26.3. So let's see what happens. Brass looks good. Trying to remember, is that one that was out of the group? Was that the cold bore? I can't remember. Alright, 26.6. Yeah, that last one, all the brass looks outstanding. So, yeah, I expect this one to be just fine as well. Yep, it looks great. See if it groups. Nope, doesn't look like it. Yeah, crap, I was hoping those would really tighten up. Alright, let's get back to the bench, see what we can figure out. Alright guys, so I took a day to kind of think this over. Been drawing all over our target here. So our last two groups, 0.97 inches, 1.88 inches, and our highest, we were up about 2,850 feet per second. That was our best standard deviation number so far at 9.8 feet per second. So, but big kind of weird point of impact shift here, right between 26.3 and 26.6. This is just kind of crappy all around. The accuracy hasn't been that great. We've shot a couple groups under an inch. That one, and then back at 24.4 grains was 0.95 inches. But overall, a little bit disappointing, and a couple groups like that guy with this one thrown way down here, not sure what the heck happened there. Yeah, just overall disappointed. Honestly, there's no region in here that I really want to load more of. Maybe here, you know, 24.4 to 25.2 was a pretty darn consistent point of impact. So that might be a good accuracy node to explore. But I don't want to shoot 2,550 feet per second. You know, I just don't. So, you know, for this purpose. So let's take a different tactic here. And so we know up to 26.6 grains, no pressure signs at all. I'll tell you what, here, have a look at the brass. So the two right-hand rows are the two last charges we shot, the two highest. Nice round primers, no ejector marks, anything like that. And if you watch the last videos, you know that, you know, my gun is very quick to flatten primers and start showing ejector marks when pressure starts getting bad. So I'm very comfortable with where we're at. And that's what I kind of took some time here to think it over, because I wanted to decide whether to keep going. That's kind of what I want to do, is just keep going up towards 27 grains. But the more I look around at load data, Hornady, which it's kind of funny, Hornady's usually the most conservative data you can find, but so like with their 60 grains, they go up to 27.7, and their 68 grain boat tail hollow point, they go up to 26.9. So we're still kind of under what Hornady was shooting. But here's the thing, I want to play around with overall length here. So like Hornady, they were shooting 2.2 inches with their VMAX, with their 60 grain VMAX, and 2.250 with their 68 grain boat tail hollow point. Nosler, with their 64 grain, they were shooting 2.175, so that's super short. And the Sierra manual, I think the Sierras, they were shooting 2.250 with their 63 grain. And let's see who else. Hodgdon was shooting a short one. Yeah, the same Sierra bullet that Sierra shoots at 2.250, they shot at 2.200. So a little bit of variation at the different load data spots of, you know, this style of bullet. So that's what I want to do. Let's take our highest charge, which we know isn't showing any pressure signs at all, and let's play with some different overall lengths and see what that gets us. You know, see what sort of velocity differences we get, and if, you know, if the groups tighten up. So one thing I wanted to check, and I actually did just a few minutes ago, I grabbed a piece of brass. I was wondering how far we could seat this guy before we got to the point where, you know, our case mouth was up over the ogive and basically we had empty space there. You don't want to go that far, or at least in this case. So I turned it around and sat it in nose first, and then I drew a little blue mark around it. So that should be kind of right, just short of where the ogive starts. And then let me show you here. I lined it up with some calipers set to 2.200, and it looks like there's room there. So I would be okay going down to 2.2. So let's do this. Let's go, we've been shooting 2.250, so let's load 2.210 all the way up to 2.260. So that's 30 more rounds, and that's going to cover us all the way down to 2.210. So 40 thousandths shorter than we were shooting, and then 10 thousandths longer than we were shooting. It may not sound like a lot, but I have a feeling when we get out there, we're going to see some pretty big differences here, both in velocity, pressure signs, and group size. So that's kind of the plan I've got, is to just, load up 30 more, hit the range one last time, and see if the groups tighten up. And at that point, if we don't see something we like, then time to try another powder probably. But, you know, our groups haven't been awful, but they haven't been good. They haven't been great. So I like great. So let's shoot for great. All right, let's start a little time lapse. I'll get to loading. Alright, so we've got 30 cases, visually inspected all the charges. I'm going to throw bullets on them real quick so I don't dump powder out. And this is going to be the time consuming part. And I really wish I had a micrometer adjusting seating die for 223, but I don't. So we're going to use the old Redding here, and I think I'll start long. I'll start with 2.260 and work my way shorter. And that's the order we'll shoot them in as well. That way, as our overall length gets shorter, our pressure should increase, and our danger as far as pressure goes will increase. So I'll need to be keeping close watch of brass signs, pressure signs and all that. So that's what we'll do. Start with 2.260. Alright, there we have it. 50 rounds of varying length. See if we can actually... Yeah, you can eyeball the difference as they slope, but it's kind of hard to see. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to get you a proper angle, but there it is. 2.260 down to 2.210. So let's go see how these guys shoot. Alright guys, I almost forgot. If everything goes well out here, this will be our last trip to the range. So I wanted to load up 3 more rounds to shoot into water jugs so we can see how these guys are going to expand. So I already had the cameras out here and set up and everything, but I ran back inside and loaded 3 bonus rounds that hopefully after this target we'll shoot these guys into water jugs. And let's see, another thing I screwed up, when I was making the target, I accidentally labeled the dots from shortest to longest. So we're going to start out with the 2.260 load, but that's going to be the bottom right-hand dot. So we're basically just going to shoot the target backwards. No big deal. We're smart. We can follow things like that, right? All right, let's get started. Let's see how these guys shoot. All right, so that's not a bad start. Not a bad start at all. 2,856 feet per second. Halfway decent group. So let's move on to 2.250, which is what we've been shooting. Another thing, I did move the sights since we were out here the last time. That point of impact shift isn't from something else. I moved 1 minute to the left and a ½ minute down just to get us a little closer. All right, that's a good group. Yeah, that's a really good group. I feel like I'm holding really well today. I feel like I've got a good rest, got just the right position, and it's feeling good. So I'm hoping we're going to see some good groups here in this batch. Another thing I did that I wasn't able to do the last time we were out was this like the 3rd range trip of this video. So the first range trip, I had left the ammo outside for quite a while before I shot it, so it was able to get up to temperature. The second range trip, I wasn't. It was basically straight off the bench. We walked out here and shot it, so all of that components and everything was at 70 degrees, while, you know, the air temp was probably in the 80s. Today I was able to leave them outside for a couple hours, and actually they were sitting in direct sun. So these are nice and warm. Like, they're actually, you know, they feel warm. So that's good. I was you know, we're up near max. I kind of wanted to see how much velocity difference we would see from the temperature change. So our previous 26.6 loads, the average was, oh crap, I don't have the averages written down here, but it was in that 2860 range, 2850 something. And this time it was 2861. So if there was any difference, it was just a couple feet per second. All right, 2.240. So far, so good. Interesting that we saw the velocity dip down just a touch. Or not change at all, I guess. If you look at the standard deviations, all these kind of fall together, it seems. All right, 2.230. Kind of opened up there. Still no pressure sign to speak of, and still no velocity increase. That's a little bit surprising to me. I figured we'd see it slowly creeping up. Standard deviation's tightening as we go. All right, 2.22. Crap, I forgot to archive the last series, so I don't know what the standard deviation is. Looks about the same. We were from 2845 up to 2868, had about a 20 foot per second extreme spread, so that probably means about a similar standard deviation to the last one? Is it? You guys know better than me at this point. No pressure signs on the brass at all, everything looks good. So we're ready to move on to 2.210. All right. Well, that last group was pretty gross. But if you take the other 5 groups, lay them right on top of one another, I mean, they're all, I mean, that's like a 25 shot group that's 1.5 inches, 2 inches. I'm pretty darn happy with that. I'm surprised we didn't see velocity gain as we shortened our overall length. But I'm happy with this velocity. I think 2,850 feet per second is pretty darn smoking fast for this bullet. We could probably, you know, squeak out a little bit more, but why? You know, it's a good, yeah, pretty good velocity. And we have no pressure signs to speak of. I think we're in good shape. All right, let's get resituated. Let's shoot these last 3 into some water jugs. And what I'll do, I'll throw the suppressor on. We'll see if we can get some velocity readings with the suppressor, see if there's any bump. All right, let's see what this guy does with some water jugs. All right, got a hole in the 3rd one, but I don't see any bullet. There it is. Or at least there's the jacket with no lead left in it. And now that I look, I have got fragments of lead. There's the main base part of it. Interesting. Pretty gnarly expansion. All right, let's try it again. All right, so I didn't get a velocity on that first one because I forgot to plug the chronograph in. That'll do it every time. All right, let's try this again. All right, velocity was 2805, so that was a little bit lower than we were seeing. Whatever. We'll shoot the 3rd one here in a second. Okay, so what exactly happened here? I don't know. It blew the first one up, and there's a hole in the 2nd. Yep, and I see bullet down under there. Yep, that's the bullet base and the main part of the lead. So it looks like we're losing a lot to fragmentation, and that base is holding together a little bit. Good deal. You know what, we might as well blow one more up, even though we're not going to capture the bullet. At least yeah, at least we'll blow something up. We got one more round to shoot. Alright, so that was 2783. So if anything, I'm showing that I'm losing a little bit of velocity with the suppressor here. Interesting. More testing on that later. Alright, let me get cleaned up. We'll get back to the bench, we'll measure out these groups, we'll have a look at the bullets, and come to some conclusions. Okay guys, I think we could finally put this video to sleep. Pretty happy with this last little trip to the range. Usually when I get back to the bench and measure them, they're a little tighter than I thought they were out there, and this is kind of opposite. I thought some of these groups were a little bit tighter, especially that guy. I was thinking it was a little one, but at over an inch, Most of them are just over an inch, 1.3, except that the last one we shot, the shortest overall length, 2.210, really opened up and started spraying them a little bit. But our best group was the length we had shot from the start, 2.250. I'm a little surprised that we didn't see any significant velocity change as we went shorter. I thought 50 thousandths of overall length was going to be enough to where this would be hotter, you know, pressure and a little bit more velocity, but it wasn't really the case. All of these were right at 2850. Between 2850 and 2861 was our highest. And if we go back to our previous target where we shot this, it's yeah, 26.6 grains. It was 2851 as well. So very consistent velocities. And oh, you know, the standard deviation's not bad. I mean, we had a couple single digit standard deviations, but you know, several in this 14, 18, 17 range. That's still okay. But what I really like, there wasn't a whole lot of point of impact shift here. Maybe a little bit downward up here. But that seems like a pretty forgiving load as far as overall length goes. Pretty darn nifty. And you know, 2850, I'm pretty happy with that velocity. We could go a little bit hotter. Our brass looked great. All of our brass looked outstanding. And you know, no pressure signs at all. So I could squeeze more out of it if I needed to, but I don't really feel the need. I feel like that pretty good. Overall, pretty happy with the way CFE 223 shot with the bullet. Especially considering, like I had mentioned in the previous video, I need to keep reminding myself what gun I'm shooting. You know, it's in standard stock Colt LE 6920. No free floated barrel, none of that. So absurdly tight groups probably just aren't realistic. So this is pretty darn good shooting for an off-the-shelf gun as far as I'm concerned. Now the expansion, pretty darn impressed with this. They fragmented a little bit more than I expected. I thought they would retain a little bit more, but that's probably just my ignorance. Both of the jackets came out to 17 grains. Both of the bases, one of them was 17 grains and the other was 18 grains. So that's about, what, 35 grains in the jacket and base that held together. So that's about 20 grains that it shed into pedals. That is a mean little round. Pretty darn mean. I wouldn't have any problem at all loading up a bunch of these and keeping them around for some butt kicking, because that is some butt kicking expansion as far as I'm concerned. What else? What else should we talk about? I think that's it. Yeah, overall pretty happy. And like I mentioned, I'm very happy with the consistency. And I think I had mentioned on the range, except for this first dude, which was 3 inches. Like, we could overlay these 5 groups on top of one another and it'd still be probably a 2 to 2.5 inch group. That's really consistent, you know? No crazy flyers, nothing, you know, no shots that we need to ignore. They all shot pretty darn consistent, so that's the sign of a good shooting bullet. That is the sign of a good shooting bullet. And maybe we'll find another powder that shoots even better. So that's what I think we're going to do next, is try another powder with this bullet. And it'll probably be IMR 4895. Yep, I think we'll shoot this guy with IMR 4895, see how it does, and then move on to some others. And speaking of others, we've got a couple more to add to the poll. I'll start the poll in this video, and if you're not already familiar, there will be some polls. You click up here in this, top right hand corner, and there will be a poll for what powders and what bullets you want to see next. The 55 grain Controlled Chaos from Lehigh Defense It's already been on the pole. The 62 grain Maker T-Rex, the tipped Rex 62 grainer from Maker. That guy is going on the pole. Now, a new addition is the 70 grain Hornady GMX. It's an all copper 70 grain offering from Hornady. This guy, I would expect it to perform similar to the way the 70 grain Maker did in our previous video. Yep, that's what they show as far as an expansion profile, and that's about how the Maker performed. And also this 70 grain Barnes TSX. That guy. So that's going on the pole. So we've got 4 potential butt kickers here. So if you've got one you want to see in particular, vote in the poll. We've got some other powders to add. Where did they go? I had them up here just a little bit ago. Yeah, I don't know. They disappeared. But I got some Winchester standby. Here we go. A couple more powders to add to the list of possibilities. Some Winchester 748, some Vitavori N140, and some Hodgdon H4895. So there are those guys. If you've got other bullets you'd like me to test, just mention them down in the comments, and I'll see about picking up a box. So, alright, I think that's it. Appreciate you watching. This video is probably going to be crazy long, but that's okay. See you next time.